History's Shadow, The Curse of the Mary Celeste. A ghost ship's unsolved mystery, the Atlantic Ocean. December 4th, 1872. The brigantine de Gracia cut through the choppy waters. A routine voyage from New York to Gibraltar. Captain David Morehouse stood on deck, scanning the horizon. That's when he saw it, a ship drifting aimlessly, its sails partially set, moving with an unnatural list. It was a vessel he recognized, the Mary Celeste, commanded by his good friend, Captain Benjamin Briggs. But something was profoundly wrong. No flag flew from her mast. No one stood at the helm. And despite the rough seas, the Mary Celeste was sailing as if under no command at all. This wasn't just a ship adrift. It was a maritime enigma, a ghost ship whose story would haunt the annals of the sea for centuries. Captain Morehouse hailed the vessel repeatedly. Silence. An eerie, profound silence. He dispatched a small boat with his first mate, Oliver Deveau, and two other crewmen. As they approached the Mary Celeste, the silence became palpable. There was no sign of life, no shouts, no answers. Deveau, a seasoned sailor, boarded the ship. What he found inside would launch one of the greatest maritime mysteries in history. The ship was fully provisioned. The cargo, 1,701 barrels of industrial alcohol, was intact and untouched. The crew's personal belongings, their pipes, their clothes, their money, all was still there. The captain's cabin held a sewing machine with an unfinished piece of fabric, a child's toy, and a stack of expensive clothes. In the galley, a meal was half prepared. The logbook was open on a table. Its last entry dated November 25th, 10 days earlier, and in the captain's bunk, a sword was still sheathed, hanging undisturbed. But the ship's most vital possessions were missing: the sextant, the chronometer, and the navigation papers, all essential for any long voyage, were gone. The lifeboat was also missing. It seemed as though Captain Briggs, his wife Sarah, their 2-year-old daughter Sophia, and the 7-man crew had left the Mary Celeste in extreme hurry, taking only the bare essentials for survival in a lifeboat. But why? Why abandon a perfectly seaworthy vessel with its valuable cargo untouched? The Mary Celeste was not sinking. She showed no signs of heavy damage, only some water in the hold, which was common for a ship of her age. The rigging was slightly damaged, but nothing that would force an abandonment. It was as if a ghost had simply lifted everyone off the deck and vanished them into thin air. Captain Morehouse, after much deliberation, decided to bring the Mary Celeste into Gibraltar. This act of salvage would lead to an official inquiry, a court of admiralty, which began on December 18, 1872. The investigation was led by Frederick Solly Flood, the Attorney General of Gibraltar, a man known for his sharp mind and his even sharper temper. Flood was immediately suspicious. He theorized that the crew of the de Gracia had somehow played a part in the disappearance. His main theory was a dark one: mutiny and murder. He believed Captain Morehouse and his crew had boarded the Mary Celeste, murdered everyone on board, then created a staged abandonment to claim the salvage reward. He pointed to small bloodstains found on the captain's sword sheath and a strange cut mark on the bow of the ship, suggesting an altercation. However, the evidence presented in court quickly dismantled Flood's conspiracy theory. The bloodstains were determined not to be human blood. The cut mark was deemed too old to be related to any recent violence. And the crew of the de Gracia were respected sailors with impeccable reputations. After weeks of intense cross-examination, the court cleared Captain Morehouse and his crew of any wrongdoing. They were awarded a modest salvage payment, but the core mystery remained unsolved. If no crime had been committed by the salvors, what then had happened to Captain Briggs and his family? The court concluded, with a sense of profound frustration, that the truth was simply unknowable. The Mary Celeste was deemed a phantom ship, and her fate became a blank page in maritime history. But the story of the Mary Celeste did not end in a courtroom. It began to capture the imagination of the public, spawning countless theories, each more bizarre than the last. Some speculated about a sudden violent storm. Captain Briggs was known to be overcautious, so perhaps a rogue wave or water spout had convinced him the ship was doomed, leading him to abandon it too quickly. But if so, why was the ship found relatively intact? Others suggested an underwater earthquake or volcanic eruption, a sudden shift in the seabed that caused the ship to list violently, throwing the crew into a panic before it righted itself. But again, no significant damage was found. The more outlandish theories soon emerged. Some whispered of a giant squid or a sea monster, an attack so sudden and terrifying that the crew abandoned ship in a frenzy. Others pointed to piracy, suggesting that a band of desperate sailors had attacked the Mary Celeste, kidnapped its occupants, and then sailed away, leaving the ship to drift. But why leave the valuable cargo and the personal belongings untouched? Pirates of the 19th century were not known for their courtesy. And if it was piracy, where was the evidence of a struggle? Perhaps the most persistent and unsettling theory revolved around the ship's cargo, 1,701 barrels of raw alcohol. This industrial spirit was highly volatile. Could a leak in the cargo hold have caused a sudden, terrifying explosion? If some barrels had leaked, the fumes could have accumulated, creating a ticking time bomb. Captain Briggs, a devout and responsible man, might have ordered an immediate abandonment, lowering the lifeboat and attaching it to the Mary Celeste with a long rope. The plan would have been to wait for the explosion, then ray-ball the ship once the danger passed. But what if the rope had somehow snapped? A sudden gust of wind, a rogue wave, a poorly tied knot, and the lifeboat, with all 11 souls, would have been adrift, leaving the ghost ship to sail on without them. This theory, while plausible, still left questions. Why was there no charring, no evidence of an explosion? And why were the navigation instruments missing from the main ship if they intended to return? Over the decades, the story of the Mary Celeste became a cautionary tale, a legend whispered by sailors in taverns around the world. It was a stark reminder of the ocean's unpredictable power and its ability to erase lives without a trace. The disappearance of Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife Sarah, their daughter Sophia, and the 7-man crew remains one of the most enduring mysteries of the sea. Their personal effects were found, the half-eaten meal, the child's toy. These intimate details paint a picture of ordinary life suddenly interrupted. A perfect normalcy shattered in an instant. What we are left with is an empty ship, a silent testament to a tragedy that defies explanation. The official records close the case with a shrug, stating unknown causes. But the human mind craves resolution. It yearns for an answer to such a profound void. Was it a natural disaster of impossible odds? A mutiny covered up so perfectly it left no trace? Or something else entirely? Something that truly vanished the crew into the vast, unforgiving expanse of the Atlantic? The Mary Celeste sailed into history as a vessel without a crew, a riddle without a solution, forever reminding us that some shadows on the sea are simply too deep to ever fully pierce. The ocean, it seems, sometimes decides to keep its secrets.